What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Michael here with another highly requested and fun to play Fallout 4 build. Thanks so much for tuning into FudgeMuppet, and remember, if you love Fallout 4 and builds in general, then subscribe, because if you do, you're gonna get a whole lot more. I'd also strongly recommend that if you enjoy our content and haven't seen our top 10 Fallout 4 fun weapons video, go check it out and leave a comment telling us what you think. Based on the likes to views ratio, it's one of our most successful videos of all time. This video, however, is the Agent, and this build is for anyone wanting a classic 007 kind of character. Suave, intelligent, resourceful, and efficient, the Agent will deliver you the ultimate James Bond playthrough. Speaking of delivering, this build uses the unique legendary weapon called the Deliverer to silently neutralize his opponents. Remember, as always, to leave your most wanted build requests in the comments below. We make our builds based on what kind of concepts and themes most people want to see next. The Agent is going to be quite a versatile character, excelling at stealth, persuasion, and combat regardless of his terrain or circumstances. He'll also be using hacking and lockpicking, which makes him great for anyone wanting a character who experiences every little detail Fallout has to offer. The Agent will also be able to generate a lot of caps if he chooses to, so if you're looking for a build that's pretty good at everything, this is it. Finally, this build can use power armor if it is necessary to complete his mission, however, it isn't a main feature. As always, we've got timestamp links in the description to help you navigate throughout this video, so if you want to go back to a section to remember information or skip through something, you can. In the description, we've also got links to all the guides we made that might further help you with this build. For example, you might want to go and watch our video all about ballistic weave. That said, let's get into the Agent's backstory and learn who he was before he emerged from Vault 111. The Agent was born in Boston and grew up in a relatively average family who encouraged him to do his best to achieve his ambitions. They wanted him to break out of the mediocre lifestyles they believed they'd been forced to live, and throughout his upbringing he was always viewed as their golden child. The Agent was happy to have parents that would support his goals, no matter what they were. However, deep down he was worried because he didn't actually have an idea of what he wanted to do. Throughout his schooling, he would constantly bounce between career choices, wondering if it would be more enjoyable being a lawyer or a businessman, or perhaps something less complex like a personal trainer. He never had a clue, and decided that all he could really do in the meantime was to improve himself. So throughout high school, the Agent decided to educate himself on various things in the hope that it would later help him get into college to complete a degree of his choice. That said, do not make the mistake in thinking that the Agent spent all his time reading books. He also loved women and spent a lot of his youth sleeping with them. He may have felt a bit anxious about his future on the inside, but his personality in general was witty and charismatic. He was smart, charming, and used his mouth and brains to get his way. Spending time with girls took his mind off the future ahead, so he spent as much time as any teenage boy wished he could doing exactly that. Eventually, however, high school came to an end, and it was time for the Agent to pick a degree to pursue in college. He still wasn't sure about what he wanted to do, however, one area he always thought he was pretty good at was computers. His marks at high school would allow him to do computer science at college, and over the next 4 years, he became a master with computers and fully understood robotics. He graduated at the top of his class, and even though he quite enjoyed working with computers, he still wasn't sold that this was his calling in life. After finishing college and seeking out a high-paying computer-based job, it wasn't long before the Agent stumbled across a more unique and exciting career opportunity. Apparently, a computer science degree was highly desired by the DIA, so the Agent applied for a job within the intelligence organization and shortly after was accepted. He had to travel often during his career and was working only with computers for the first year. Contact with his family slowly lessened over time, and the Agent had to fabricate a story for his family about where he was working and what he was doing. The Agent eventually became an intelligence analyst, and after picking up a great deal of knowledge about how the DIA worked and what its values were, he was given the opportunity to become a field operative. The Agent accepted this role, and his life became more unpredictable than ever before. He was put through intense training, taught how to act, what to say, how to shoot, climb, hide, and move. He was tested, tortured, and eventually molded into a scarily efficient agent. Unlike many other agents though, who became cold and dark, the Agent never really seemed to lose his personality or sense of adventure. He wasn't as robotic as the other agents, however he was just as useful. The Agent undertook many missions, living a completely new existence resistance, and as he expected, he was eventually forced to take some lives. He quickly accepted the idea of killing when necessary. However, he wasn't an assassin, and the DIA tried to prevent him from being in combat situations as much as possible. The DIA must have had other people for shady jobs, and while he had no proof of this, he'll never forget the day he thought he saw one. This female was the scariest, most menacing person the agent had ever seen. She ignored him completely as she walked past one day, and he couldn't care less. He wasn't too keen on a conversation with her. As the agent's life continued and many missions passed, he ended up receiving a new mission that was definitely a stretch from his current lifestyle. The DIA had received intel from Alaska that Chinese spies had infiltrated the military, and they decided that the agent should be stationed here to address this. He was to become a member of the military, and the DIA trained him accordingly at great speed to fit in with the rest of the soldiers. His job was to root out Chinese spies, and the agent did this with great success. It took many years, and he felt his life was placed in danger all too often. As the agent found his way back to his headquarters, he undertook a few more missions until eventually some of his teenage desires came back to him. The agent wanted a girl, and he'd been subtly flirting with a woman in the DIA for the entire year before he went to Alaska. Now that he had returned, he decided to be a bit more forward, even if it was breaking policy. The two ended up going out to lunch and dated each other for over a year in secrecy before they decided to leave the DIA entirely. They had fallen in love, and they wanted to leave their life of mystery, risk, and adrenaline behind for something more relaxed. They wanted to start a family. This is exactly what they did, and now the agent could get a regular job working with computers and try to reconnect with his parents. The new lifestyle of the agent was slowly falling into place until the bombs began to fall, and he was rushed into the vault with his wife and their son. Now that you know the backstory of the agent, it's time to get into the quest choices and motive section of this video. Before we do, however, I will issue the warning that I will be explaining what factions this build can join and why. If you don't want to know the factions that exist in Fallout 4, then skip this section using the timestamp links in the description. That said, we're keeping all the faction and big quest storylines quite vague, so let's get into it. Entering the Commonwealth, the agent is going to immediately seek out his son. He's upset about what has happened to him, however he uses techniques taught to him by the DIA to take control of his emotions and suppress them greatly. The agent is going to slowly become a happier person and try to make the most of his circumstance. He will want to succeed within the new post-apocalyptic world, and he's happy to see that many people still act like people. He does miss his wife, however he knows that she would have wanted him to move on, and because of this the agent will eventually turn into quite the flirt. He will ask for money when he deems it fair, but he will not take money from those who desperately need it. Eventually the agent will discover the railroad and will immediately be intrigued by their cause. Because he understands computers and robotics very well, synthetic humans fascinate him greatly, and he decides to help them. The railroad are the most powerful ally the agent has come across, and he knows that his previous experience as a field operative will help him thrive within this faction. The agent will excel in the railroad, making new friends and learning unique skills. However, the time will come where he discovers the Institute, and he will have a difficult choice to make. He can decide to join the Institute and live a life like he once did within the DIA, doing morally questionable things in the name of the greater good, or he can stay with the railroad, using his skills to save synths, all while enjoying a perfect balance of two lifestyles he once desired. Within the railroad, you're given the ability to work as an agent, however you also get to live a life outside of the faction, living among society happily with your own goals that are personal and not just aspirations of an organization. Working with the railroad does not infringe upon the common person in the way that the Institute often does, and therefore as the agent you will have to choose between being a helper and being a manipulator. All choices, however, are still made with the best outcome for humanity in mind. The agent is going to enter the wasteland with a martini in hand, shaken not stirred, with 2 strength, 2 perception, 5 endurance, 7 charisma, 7 intelligence, 4 agility, and 1 luck. He's going to use the special book in Sanctuary to increase his perception to 3, and then after getting the perception bobblehead where you meet Preston, it will become 4. This gives the agent access to lockpicking. The agent has 7 intelligence and 7 charisma to represent his intellectual abilities with computers and of course his suave attitude, and this is going to help with leveling faster and with your persuasion during dialogue. High charisma will also help you make more caps, and having 7 intelligence will allow you to get perks like hacker and robotics expert to fit in with role-playing this build. The agent has never been super strong, although he doesn't have to be, and carry weight isn't too important because he likes keeping himself light and his methods simple. He's pretty agile and will develop his agility over time. This will assist him with his stealth and also his effectiveness while using VATS. The agent has never been one to buy into luck, and he believes his survival is due to his high pain tolerance and hardy nature. So let's get into exactly how to build the agent throughout your playthrough. We're going to be going through all the perks up to level 50, and anything beyond this is up to you. So starting off in the Wasteland, the agent is going to want to invest in the Gunslinger perk for more damage, and we decided that damage and a lot of other utility perks were more useful early on than sneak. This is mainly because you can sneak at a low level decently to begin with, and because you don't have a silencer yet, you're going to get discovered after your first shot anyway. The first rank of Gunslinger will make you deal 20% more damage with pistols. We're then going to be getting Locksmith and then Hacker to start hacking and picking our way into all kinds of places in the Wasteland. We'll now have access to advanced locks and terminals, and we wanted these early to get the most out of them. It also fits in with roleplaying an agent greatly, as he needs to be able to gather information and complete tasks without any obstacles stopping him. He also has a background in computer science, which goes perfectly with Hacker. Next up is Gun Nut, so we can begin customizing our pistol and start working towards getting a silencer. And after this, we're actually going to be getting the Aquaboy perk. At the first rank, the agent will no longer take radiation damage from swimming, and he'll be able to breathe underwater. We're not getting the second rank till later, but I'll tell you now that it makes you totally undetectable while submerged. The reason we wanted this perk for the agent is because it fits in with being adaptable and efficient in whatever environment you're placed in. You'll be able to use this perk to dive underwater, swim below the surface up to enemies, and then jump out with the element of surprise on your side to take them out. The next rank of Gunslinger is the next choice for the agent, and this is going to continue to make this build a fast killer. The second rank makes pistols do 40% more damage and also increases their range. This is helpful for those headshots that just seem a bit too far away. We're then getting the second rank of Locksmith and Hacker over levels 8 and 9, and this will give the agent access to expert terminals and locks. Lockpicking is of course going to help you get more loot on top of gaining access to areas, and the same thing goes for Hacker. Hacker will also allow you to mess around with stationed turrets and robots, which adds a more tactical element to the agent's playstyle. Even if you feel like you don't have to, it's usually fun to make the effort to sneak past enemies to turn their turret against them unexpectedly. Finally, at level 10, we're getting Lady Killer, which is another great perk for roleplaying, and it plays into the whole ladies man alluring spy theme. Women will now suffer 5% more damage in combat, and they'll be easier to persuade in dialogue. At last, it's time to get stealthy with the sneak perk, 2 ranks in fact. With 2 ranks of sneak, the agent is going to be 30% harder to detect while sneaking, and he'll no longer trigger floor-based traps. This doesn't include mines, so watch out for those, especially if for some crazy reason you decide to go to Quincy at such a low level. We also decided to get sneak now because at level 13, we are getting the second rank of Gun Nut. This will allow us to put a silencer on our 10mm pistol, and this is why we decided to get 2 ranks of sneak at levels 11 and 12. Now you'll be able to sneak very often and get away with killing enemies silently. To help with this, we're going to be getting the first rank of Mr. Sandman, as this directly affects silenced weapons. Your silenced weapons will now do an additional 15% sneak attack damage, and you can instantly kill a sleeping person with a throat slitting animation. We find that the throat slitting animation is a little sinister for this build, however you could use it on a raider if you want to. The main selling point of this perk, however, is of course the extra silenced gun damage. We're then getting Gunslinger rank 3 to deal even more damage with our pistols, 60%, and that increased range we had before is going to be increased even further. At level 16, we're getting Sneak 3 to improve the stealth playstyle of this build even more, and this rank makes the agent 40% harder to detect while sneaking, and now you'll no longer trigger enemy mines. At level 17, we're getting the second rank of Mr. Sandman to deal 30% additional sneak attack damage, and as you can see, this build now has a really good foundation in stealth movement and damage. At level 18, we get Locksmith 3 to lockpick master locks, giving us access to basically all the locks in Fallout 4, and then we're going to double dip in the armor perk. This perk is necessary to apply ballistic weave, which the agent uses to make armored clothing, and you should be able to have this by now, or if not, you can get it soon. At level 21, it's time to access all the master terminals with the third rank of Hacker, and then at level 22, we're getting that second and final rank of Aquaboy, so we can become undetectable while submerged underwater. To get the most out of this perk, be sure to use it as often as possible. Obviously, the first rank will be useful more often, as you can use it to take shortcuts through water-based areas and not have to worry about radiation. At level 23, we're getting the 4th rank of Sneak to be 50% harder to detect while sneaking, and at this rank, running will no longer adversely affect stealth. This means you can move a lot faster in sneak mode, allowing you to quickly dash for cover after you pull off swift kills. At level 24, we're actually going to start investing in the agility stat, and this build is going to increase his agility over time to represent his pistol skill improving during his time in the Commonwealth. Eventually, the agent will end up taking advantage of the Gun Fu perk as well, and this is sensational in combination with the Deliverer. We're then getting the 3rd rank of Gun Nut to fully max out the Deliverer, which will increase its damage significantly, and we're not getting the 4th rank for this build as we simply do not need it. At level 26, we're investing another perk point into agility, and following this, it's time to up the damage of this build even more with the 4th rank of Gunslinger. Now your pistol will do 80% more damage, and your attacks can even disarm opponents. This fits in with the professional vibes of the agent as he learns to not simply aim at his enemy and pull the trigger, but to masterfully select his targets and use his weapon in a tactical way. Keep in mind that the Gunslinger perk only affects non-automatic pistols, but this shouldn't be of concern if you're using the Deliverer like we recommended. The action continues at levels 28 and 29 with the amazing Action Boy perk, and with 2 ranks of this, you're going to be regenerating action points 50% faster. This is extremely helpful for the agent as he is slowly becoming more and more capable of using VATS. Finally, at level 30, it's time to get the last rank of Mr. Sandman, giving this build even more damage with his sneak attacks. Silenced weapons will now do a colossal 50% additional sneak attack damage. At level 31, the agility dumping continues, all in the name of better perks and more VATS usage, and then at level 32 and 33, we're choosing the Lady Killer perk. These final 2 ranks will strengthen the charming side of this build, and now women will suffer 15% more damage in combat, and they'll become much easier to persuade in dialogue. Next, we get Armorer 3 to improve our ballistic weave again, and then over the next 3 levels, 35, 36, and 37, it's time for the agent to learn ninjutsu and get the ninja perk. With all ranks of ninja, the agent will have a massive boost to his sneak attack damage. Ranged sneak attacks will now do 3.5 times as much normal damage, which is beast, and while this build doesn't use melee, I will mention anyway that melee sneak attacks will now do 10 times as much normal damage. At level 38, we continue to stick to the shadows with the final rank of sneak, and this rank allows you to lose distant enemies by engaging stealth. This is great if you're ever compromised and need to escape. At level 39, we get the final rank of Armorer, allowing us to make some top, high-quality ballistic weave, and then at level 40, we get another point of agility. This trend continues at level 41 when we make our agility 10 if you have the bobblehead, of course, and now you'll be able to get the Gun Fu perk, but we're getting Gunslinger first. Getting the 5th rank of Gunslinger at level 42 is going to make the agent do double damage with pistols, and the chance to disarm opponents with your attacks becomes much better. You also get the bonus chance of being able to cripple a limb. Now it's time to invest in Gun Fu, so much so that we do it twice. At the 1st rank, we'll do 25% more damage to our 2nd target and beyond in VATS, and at the 2nd rank, we'll do 50% more damage to our 3rd target and beyond in VATS. This is such a beast perk for this build for 3 reasons. The first reason is obviously having a lot of action points to select shots with due to high agility, which you need to get this perk anyway, and the second reason is because we are using a low AP cost weapon, a pistol. The third reason is because of the legendary effect this pistol has, which happens to reduce action point cost. Next up, the agent becomes a bit hardier. He's going to be increasing his endurance by 3 points over the next 3 levels, giving him a lot more health than he previously had. The higher level you are, the better endurance becomes, and we've made a video about this which you can find in the description. At levels 48 and 49, we're getting 2 ranks of medic, and this is going to be another perk point investment that helps this build stay alive. With 2 ranks of medic, Stimpaks will restore 60% of your max HP, and Radaway will remove 60% of your max potential radiation. We decided to get sturdier perks later on as harder enemies now start appearing. We didn't think it was necessary for the first 50 levels of this build as stealth is the agent's main focus. He should be avoiding detection as much as he can. Finally, at level 50, we're getting the 3rd rank of Gun Fu, and this is by far the rank that makes this build so powerful. Now the agent will instantly do a critical hit against his 4th target and beyond in VATS. This is going to happen very often, as you can easily target more than 4 opponents due to the low AP cost of the deliverer, and this will allow you to show off the agent's mastery of his pistol as he takes out crowds of up to 16 enemies in a series of calculated and precise movements. The special stats for the agent at level 50 are going to be 3 strength, 4 perception, 9 endurance, 8 charisma, 8 intelligence, 10 agility, and 2 luck. This doesn't include any gear, but it does include all the bobbleheads. When it comes to gear, the agent is a very simple man. He's going to get himself a tuxedo as soon as possible and progressively upgrade it with ballistic weave modifications. Because you want an acceptable armor rating, it's important that you prioritize the faction choices we chose for this build. Get ballistic weave before you finalize your big choice. You can buy a tuxedo at the clothing store in Diamond City, and once you have all ranks of armor and you max it out, it's going to give you 110 damage resistance and 110 energy resistance. This not only allows you to use a classic James Bond aesthetic and not die, but it also allows you to roleplay being a spy who has special advanced technology on his side. In terms of a weapon, you're going to want to get your hands on a 10mm pistol to start with. Remember to upgrade it as much as possible through advancing gun nut, and you'll want to get a silencer on it very quickly. You could also use a pipe pistol as a backup at the start of the game. Even a revolver, whatever you can find, but once you get a silencer, stick with the 10mm. However, through prioritizing the faction choices we recommended, you're going to end up getting the legendary pistol known as the Deliverer. This pistol will be your main weapon for the entire game and comes with a silencer. You will want to fully upgrade each part of the gun to its fullest potential, although we recommend you don't get the large quick eject magazine. We thought this didn't suit the aesthetic of the gun, however if you think it's cool then by all means use it. Now as I said, the Deliverer is a legendary weapon, and what it's going to do is improve your VATS hit chance and give you a 25% reduction in action point cost. This allows the agent to select a massive amount of shots to fire and becomes incredibly useful once we get the Gun Fu perk. When necessary, this build can also use Stealth Boys and Railroad Stealth Boys. Above all, the agent is resourceful, so he will utilize whatever he can to help him win. He might decide to use certain explosives or even jump in a set of XO1 power armor if that's what is needed to complete an objective. He can also modify various types of clothing with ballistic weave for role-playing during different missions. For example, you might want to disguise yourself as a roaming trader or perhaps a settler. Taking a look at companions, the agent could definitely use Deacon. Deacon can align with the faction choices of this build and also of course the theme. Deacon is a more stealth-oriented character and gives you a nice perk after you max his affinity. It's called the Cloak and Dagger perk and it gives you 20% more default sneak attack damage. This bonus alone is very handy but becomes even better alongside Mr. Sandman and Ninja. Cloak and Dagger also increases Stealth Boy duration by 40%, and as you know, this build will be using Stealth Boys when he sees fit. Nick Valentine can also be used as a companion for this build, however if you choose to go against Deacon's faction you will want to use X688. Alternatively, the agent doesn't have to use a companion at all, especially if he finds that his stealth goes better without one. If you want to be romantic you could choose a different companion or not, we'll leave that up to you. Oh, and make sure you get your shag on with Magnolia in Good Neighbor. With settlement choices, the choice is ultimately up to you. This build doesn't have perks like Local Leader, but if you want to get settlement-based perks like this after level 50, you can. We think it would be cool to make a few bases around the wasteland, simply for yourself if you want to recharge between missions. Perhaps you want some armored rags and a big settlement of scrappy infrastructure to blend in as a scavenger. The agent also enjoys his faction base, and he can sell some loot there too. And now you know everything you need to about the agent. If I told you any more, I'd have to kill you. Thanks for staying this long, and do click the subscribe button to get more Fallout 4 builds. Only if you want more, of course. Maybe you hated this video and stayed so long because you love indulging in the things that make you mad. If you liked this video, we'd love if you could tell a friend about it, and of course click the like button to show your support. As always, we've put our social media links in the description and also our usernames for our Snapchat and Twitter, so go check that all out. You'll also find the links to all the guides we made that will help you with the agent. My name is Michael, this was the agent, and I'll see you all soon with some more Fallout 4.